Oxidized, cloudy headlights is a common issue, especially for older cars. I'm going to teach you 2 ways to restore headlights. What happens over time is when the headlight is exposed to the outdoors, it oxidizes, turns yellow and cloudy. Hardly any light can get out to light up the road at night, and that's a safety issue. Now, sometimes you can get away with just compounding the headlight, and that'll restore clarity. In extreme cases, you're going to have to sand all that dead oxidized plastic off and then buff out your sanding marks to actually get the headlights clear. I'll show you both procedures with this headlight. First, let's just try compounding and see what we can do. Now, this is a wool pad and a rotary buffer. It offers a lot of power. This is a compound. It's the Wolfgang Uber compound. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some compound onto the headlight. Then I'll pick this up and buff it in and see if this is aggressive enough to restore these headlights. Okay, so that improved the headlight, but you can see as we get down here, there's a line here. And what that tells me is these have an OEM coating, and that coating is actually disintegrating. And anytime you have a coating that's disintegrating, the proper way to fix that is to sand it, because you've got to sand all that coating off and then pull your sanding marks out. So let me show you the sanding process. Now, to do this, I'm going to start with a low grit of 1000. This is a little 3-inch mini polisher. This is a 3-inch sanding disc. And over here I've got a little bit of soapy water to lubricate the surface as I'm sanding. And what you need to do is you need to maintain pad rotation. This is a DA polisher, so if I push too hard it will quit rotating. So I can adjust the speed, and usually around the 4 or 5 is enough to maintain pad rotation. If it's not, I can always bring the speed up. Okay, so that's my first pass of sanding, and for this I used 1000 grit. What I want to do now is refine my sanding marks. So I'm going to remove the 1000 grit sanding disc and move up to 2000. And then just repeat the process and keep working my way up to a finer and finer grit. And that'll make buffing out the sanding marks a lot faster and a lot easier. Okay, so that's 2,000. Next I'll go to 3,000. And just continue refining my sanding marks until I finish out with 4,000. And it's important that you finish out or sand long enough to make sure you remove the previous sanding marks. Or when you go to do the buff out, you'll see your sanding marks that you didn't get out. So that's why you want to make sure you just do a good job. It's a good idea to wipe off the previous residue too, because there could be sanding particles in there and you want to make sure you remove those. You can also see how I tape this off with painter's tape, and I pop the hood. That gets the paint away from where you're sanding. Okay, so this is the last sanding step. This is the 4,000 grit. Okay. And by the time you finish out at a high grit level like 4,000, you're actually starting to see the headlight go clear. And that's just a sign of how refined your sanding marks are. Okay, so we're done with the little polisher that I use for a sander and our sanding lube. Now I'm ready to try to pull these sanding marks out here. One thing I like to do is I always like to make sure my pad's clean. This is a spur. Just put your rotary buffer against your leg. Bring my RPMs up. Run this across there like that. That'll kick out any dirt, or because I buffed this previously, it'll take off some of that dead oxidized plastic off there. That way I can start out clean. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and put my compound on. Put a strip right there. Turn my RPMs down really low. This dials down to 600 RPM. Then I'll pick up my product and start working it in. Okay, so I've removed all my sanding marks and I've removed all of that OEM coating. So now we're just down to pure clear plastic. Now the next step is to protect that plastic to help prevent oxidation into the future. And for that we're going to use the McKee's 37 Headlight Protectant Spray. This is a polymer that'll seal the surface to slow down and prevent oxidation. Just want to mist some on, take an applicator pad and work it in. Fill all the pores, coat over the surface. And let that dry for about a minute and wipe off the excess residue. And that's how you restore headlights, either with or without an OEM coating. Then when you're done, you can remove the tape. And then simply repeat the process to the other side. There we go. That's headlight restoration, a common issue that's easy to take care of if you know the right tools and the right products. The first set of headlights we worked on had a coating, an OEM coating, that was failing, it was disintegrating. In order to do the correct restoration for those headlights, we had to sand all that coating off and then remove our sanding marks. This car has headlights without the coating. That means it's just solid plastic, there's nothing over the top of the plastic. And as you can see, they've oxidized and turned cloudy, and these are actually really simple to restore. A lot of times you won't need to sand, you won't even need a rotary buffer. You can fix these by applying a compound by hand or a simple DA polisher like the Porter Cable 7424 XP and a foam cutting pad. The first thing you want to do is tape off any surrounding paint to protect it. You can also pop the hood just to get it out of the way so there's no risk of damaging the paint on the hood. Next, you want to apply some of the compound to the face of the pad. Set the speed setting on high and then simply buff the headlight lens until you've removed all the oxidation. Wipe off the compound residue, then apply the McKee's 37 Headlight Protectant Spray. Apply this using a foam applicator pad, allow it to dry for about a minute, and then wipe off any excess. And there you go, headlights that are crystal clear and safe.